Oblivion Lore, Part 1. Darkest Darkness. In Morrowind, both worshippers and sorcerers summon lesser Daedra and bound Daedra as servants and instruments. Most Daedric servants can be summoned by sorcerers for very brief periods within the most fragile and tenuous frameworks of command and binding. This fortunately limits their capacity for mischief, although in a few minutes most of these servants can do terrible harm to their summoners, as well as their enemies. Worshippers may bind other Daedric servants to this plane through rituals and pacts. Such arrangements result in the Daedric servant remaining on this plane indefinitely, or at least until their bodily manifestations on this plane are destroyed, precipitating the return of their supernatural essences to oblivion. Whenever Daedra are encountered at Daedric ruins or in tombs, they are almost invariably long-term visitors to our plane. Likewise, entities bound by their Daedra lords into weapons and armor may be summoned for brief periods, or they may persist indefinitely, so long as they are not destroyed and banished. The class of bound weapons and bound armors summoned by temple followers and conjurers are examples of short-term bindings. Daedric artifacts like Mehrunes' razor and the mask of Clavicus' vial are examples of long-term bindings. The Tribunal Temple of Morrowind has incorporated the veneration of Daedra as lesser spirits subservient to the immortal Amcivi, the triune godhead of Almalexia, Sothasil, and Vivec. These subordinate Daedra are divided into the good Daedra and the bad Daedra. The good Daedra have willingly submitted to the authority of the Amcivi. The bad Daedra are rebels who defy Amcivi's treacherous king, who are more often adversaries than allies. The good Daedra are Boethia, Azura, and Mephala. The Hunger is a powerful and violent lesser Daedra associated with Boethia, father of plots, a sinuous and long-limbed, long-tailed creature with a beast-skulled head, noted for its paralyzing touch and its ability to disintegrate weapons and armor. The Winged Twilight is a messenger of Azura, goddess of dusk and dawn. Winged Twilights resemble the feral harpies of the West, though the feminine aspects of the Winged Twilights are more ravishing, and their long, sharp, hooked tails immeasurably more deadly. Spider Daedra are the servants of Mephala, taking the form of spider humanoid centaurs with naked upper head, torso, and arms of human proportions, mounted on the 8 legs and armored carapace of a giant spider. Unfortunately, these Daedra are so fierce and irrational that they cannot be trusted to heed the commands of the spinner. As a consequence, few sorcerers are willing to summon either or bind such creatures in Morrowind. The bad Daedra are Mehrunes Dagon, Malakath, Sheogorath, and Molag Bal. 3 lesser Daedra associated with Mehrunes Dagon are the agile and pesky Scamp, the ferocious and beast-like Clanfear, and the noble and deadly Dormora. The crocodile-headed humanoid Daedra called the Daedroth is a servant of Molag Bal, while the giant but dim-witted Ogrim is a servant of Malakath. Sheogorath's lesser Daedra, the Golden Saint, a half-clothed human female in appearance, is highly resistant to magic and a dangerous spellcaster. Another type of lesser Daedra often encountered in Morrowind is the Atronach, or elemental Daedra. Atronachs have no binding kinship or alliance with the Daedra lords, serving one realm or another at whim, shifting sides according to seduction, compulsion, or opportunity. On Oblivion by Moran Zenas. It is improper, however customary, to refer to the denizens of the dimension of Oblivion as demons. This practice probably dates to the Alessian doctrines of the First Era prophet Mark, which, rather amusingly, forbade traffic with demons and then neglected to explain what demons were. It is most probable that demon is a misspelling or an etymological rendition of Daedra, the old elven word for those strange, powerful creatures of uncertain motivation who hail from the dimensions of Oblivion. In a later tract by King Hale the Pious of Skyrim, almost 1,000 years after the publication of the original doctrines, the evil machinations of his political enemies are compared to the wickedness of the demons of Oblivion. Their depravity equals that of Sanguine itself. They are as cruel as Boethia, calculating as Malagbar, and as mad as Sheogorath. Hale the Pious thus long-windedly introduced 4 of the Daedra Lords to written record. But the written record is not, after all, the best way to research Oblivion and the Daedra who inhabit it. Those who traffic with demons seldom wish it to be a matter of public account. Nevertheless, scattered throughout the literature of the First Era are diaries, journals, notices for witch burnings, and guides for Daedra slayers. These I have used as my primary source material. They are at least as trustworthy as Daedra Lords I have actually summoned and spoken with at length. Apparently, Oblivion is a place composed of many lands, thus the many names for which Oblivion is synonymous. Cold Harbor, Quagmire, Moonshadow, etc. It may be correctly supposed that each land of Oblivion is ruled over by one prince. The Daedric princes whose names appear over and over in ancient records, though this is not an infallible test of their authenticity or explicit existence, to be sure, are the aforementioned Sanguine, Boethia, Malagbar, and Sheogorath, and in addition Azura, Mephala, Clavicus Bile, Vermena, Malakath, Homius or Hermaeus or Hermaeus or Herma. There seems to be no one accepted spelling. Mora, Nemira, Jigalig, Nocturnal, Meyrum's Daegain, and Perite. From my experience, Daedra are a very mixed lot. It is almost impossible to categorize them as a whole, except for their immense power and penchant for extremism. Be that as it may, I have here attempted to do so in a few cases, purely for the sake of scholastic expediency. Meyrum's Dagon, Malagbar, Pyrite, Boethia, and Vermena are among the most consistently demonic of the Daedra, in the sense that their spheres seem to be destructive in nature. The other Daedra can, of course, be equally dangerous, but seldom purely for the sake of destruction as these 5 can. Nor are the previous 5 identical in their destructiveness. Meyrum's Dagon seems to prefer natural disasters, earthquakes and volcanoes, for venting his anger. Malagbar elects his employment of other Daedra, and Boethia inspires the arms of mortal warriors. Pyrite's sphere seems to be pestilence, and Vermena's torture. In preparation for the next installment in this series, I will be investigating 2 matters that have intrigued me since I began my career as a Daedra researcher. The first is one particular Daedra, yet another Daedric prince referred to it in multiple articles of Incunabula as Hircine. Hircine is being called Huntsman of the Princes, the father of man-beasts, but I have yet to find anyone who can summon him. The other, and perhaps more doubtful goal I have, is to find a practical means for mortal men to pass through to Oblivion. It has always been my philosophy that we need only fear that which we do not understand, and with that thought in mind, I ever pursue my objective. On the Nature of Cold Harbor, by Phrastus of Elenhir. This is Lecture 8 on the Nature of Cold Harbor. It looks to me like there are more of you here than there should be, so please do check your ledger. If it says transliminal bridges, you're in the wrong room. Cold Harbor is the Oblivion realm ruled by Wrothgar, the Daedric prince of brutality, slavery, vampirism, and other assorted abominations. It is not, therefore, a pleasant place. Descriptions of the plane vary wildly, and as usual in any study of Oblivion, but in all accounts agree that Cold Harbor is a dismal, cold, and largely lifeless realm, pervaded by a miasma of fear, where lost souls are tormented for eternity. This emphasizes the point made in my previous lectures that a plane of Oblivion, being made of the very stuff of chaos, takes on the form and character that reflects the nature of its ruler. Cold Harbor, therefore, has been molded to embody the purposes of the mighty Wrothgar. And what those purposes are? As it happens, I can speak to this subject with some authority, for I recently acquired the library and papers of the late Cardinal Belfort of the Order of Stendar. The Cardinal devoted his life to ridding Tamriel of Daedric cultists of all persuasions, and he was particularly rigorous in his persecution of the worshippers of Wrothgar, and in his time acquired a number of their repulsive tracts and treatises. Study of these sources reveals that Wrothgar desires, above all things, the enslavement of mortal souls. Various loathsome means are employed to this end, the ultimate goal being the diversion of a soul from its journey to the afterlife, to imprisonment and slavery on the plane of Cold Harbor. Upon arrival in Wrothgar's realm, the soul attracts to itself some of the loose creation of Oblivion, forming a corporeal body with the semblance of the shape it wore in life. These sad slaves, called soul-shriven, then toil in torment for the glory and amusement of their master Wrothgar, the slave lord. I share these secrets of the cult, heretofore unrevealed, so that you may... What is that confounded commotion out in the hall? How am I supposed to lecture here over those blood-curdling screams? I can't work in these conditions. I hope you've been enjoying these lore readings, and if you have, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.